stop and search, deaths in custody, police brutality generally, poverty, unemployment, all those areas are connected. The system is violent, the system tortures you, that the system has an effect on your psychology, it has an effect on the way you walk, the way you carry yourself, whether you dance or not, how you dance, etc. Okay, I'm Fahim and I made a film called Riots, Reframed. It's a documentary independently made, largely by me, after I was arrested in the 2011 England riots. I spent 6 weeks in prison on remand and was tagged, like on an electronic tag based, subjected to a curfew in my own home for 6 months, and I was later acquitted. In some sense, the riots has politicised the people involved for the first time. In fact, the riots were effectively a politicisation of those people in that moment. It was the first time that that generation had taken lead from their forefathers, so-called, and taken to the streets in that way. And they pretty much came from the same geographies and the same communities, the same spaces, except in the 80s, in 81, 85, 86, there was a strong understanding or connection of those people to their position in society and to take into the streets, whereas this was the very first time that generation had taken to the streets in that way. So I think that's important to note. And you know, looting takes place in every single riot. It is very much a class act, and one could say an act connected to racial oppression, if we look at it in a global sense, because the British Empire and its allies have been looting and still are looting the colonies of the British Empire for 500 years or longer for now, you know. So the fact that people felt no qualms about taking from big corporations, which was the most looting took place from corporate shops. It's something about 95%, I think, were corporate shops that were looted. Even them having no qualms against that says something about their position in society and their connection to the historical looting. The white left often are quick to criticise riots or even analyse riots and say that there should have been a more measured response, or we need to organise in a certain type of way, and maybe we should occupy and strike and protest. And I think a lot of the time that ignores the very violent situations that people live within and the ways in which their bodies and minds are conditioned by the violence of that society, and the ways, and therefore, and the politics of poverty, basically, the politics of diaspora, the politics of colonialism, and the politics of poverty that results out of that colonialism and diaspora, that represent itself in a different type of resistance often. You know, and I don't want to impose any voice on people to say that people are resisting when they stole this, or that there was a political act when they stole that. But you know, everything is political, and if you're poor, and that poverty is a result of the colonialism and looting that has taken place over centuries, then acting in a sort of putting money on the bringing money into the home or putting food on the table is very political often. So I think the left often ignores the everyday politics of white supremacy, the everyday politics of class supremacy, and the everyday politics of colonialism manifested in itself, manifested in those sorts of acts or omissions. People who don't take part in the movements of the white middle class left, which it often is, such as strikes, such as protests, such as Occupy, is that they don't see any real either short-term or long-term change in their own lives or in the lives of their communities. I don't feel that it resonates with them. It's not like they're stupid. And I think that's often what is kind of pointed out, like these people need educating or something. But I feel that a lot of the people that take part in that everyday kind of politics that I'm talking about are educated in a way in which many white middle class people that are part of the left are not educated in. I don't like the term activism because you have a certain vision when you hear the word activism. So it's kind of like it usually, people, especially black and brown people in the UK, view that as associated with white middle class people, and also, funnily enough, something which isn't worth your time, which is an interesting dynamic. And I would say so many people are active in their own lives already. I would like to emphasize on that point that a lot of people, poor people, are already active in surviving poverty, and that is resistance. To survive is resistance, where people have tried to obliterate whole nations of people just to survive, just to have children and carry on the population of that community is resistance. Will always be resistance, and I'll end on this.